Kia ora, good evening. Welcome to Code Night New Zealand. And tonight you have a special guest. Actually, I am the guest and the host tonight. We're going to be exploring APIs, right? So we're simplifying API designs with the REPR pattern and fast endpoints. So this session is going to be a .NET session. And if you are used to my sessions, you're going to notice that there are lots of demos, right? So I like coding. And I guess if you're coming here with, well, if you don't know fasten the points, you're gonna learn. And if you know, you're going to learn like advanced implementations, right? Just to leverage in your solutions. So fasten the points is a library that goes beyond the purpose of creating endpoints. Just that there's like a range of features available that you can make use of. It's pretty interesting, and I've been really enjoying in my engagements with clients. So that's my invitation for you tonight to stay with me and get to learn a little bit more about passing the points. Right. So before we get to jump to the session, I'd like just to introduce the user group. Let me just bear with me. Well, first of all, right. So tonight I am your speaker. For those that don't know me, my name is Marcel Medina. I'm a software developer and Azure specialist. Um, I've been working currently at Arinco as an app innovation consultant. I'm a playground enthusiast and coder. This is my blog. I have a little QR code that leads to my blog. And also, as you can see, I'm a Microsoft MVP. And I would like to introduce also the Code Night user group for coming here like for the first time, but you get to know that we are a community group of developers. We love coding. We follow best practices on software development languages and technologies. We mainly tend to focus a little bit more on Microsoft stack, but we are open to all technologies. And the intent of the user group is to enable developers with practical knowledge to excel and launch their careers. You're always going to find like some content in here that fits like your different stage in your that you are in your career journey, from junior to more advanced scenarios. You're always going to find like pretty good content in here. As I'd like to mention that we're part of AzureTire.com. We're a cloud native group of enthusiasts where we get to share the latest and greatest the cloud native space. We're sponsored by .NETFoundation.org, which is an entity that looks after the different open source .NET projects. And we are also sponsored by JetBrains. If you're joining joining me tonight, we're going to be raffling off 3 JetBrains licenses, right? So just stick around, and yeah, so you're gonna have the opportunity to win one of those. The agenda. Uh, you're gonna see like it's pretty lean because I'm mostly gonna be doing demos, but we're gonna be exploring the report pattern, right? What it is, what's the main purpose, and fasten points. There's a range of features available on fasten points. Okay, I think I'm gonna cover 50 to 60% of the capabilities. It's just because there are lots. It's a pretty good library. Yeah, I invite you to stay and check the demos. So just to get started, what's the Reaper pattern? The first time I heard about that was like on one of the sessions with Steven Smith, Ardalis. That was like a long time ago. I think like maybe 5, 6 years ago. But at that stage, was on controllers, right? I was using MVC controllers. I'm going to start like a poll on YouTube, and I'm just starting now, just to ask if you can answer. But how are you currently building your .NET API endpoints? Right? Are you leveraging minimal APIs, fast endpoints, or controllers? Just uh, just put like your vote in there, so I have like a better idea what you guys are doing. But the Reaper design pattern, right? It defines this web API endpoints having those 3 components: the request, an endpoint in a response. So it's a straightforward way of implementing API endpoints, different from the traditional controllers that where you have a lot of concerns, right, being wrapped up onto um, a layer that just surfaces those endpoints for you. But with those controllers, you have like those sort of bloated with time, those bloated controllers where things just grow. Then you have multiple responsibilities in there. With the REPR pattern, it's very specific, right? Concise, coherent to what like you're trying to deliver. If you think about solid, like so, single responsibility as well, depending on what you're doing, your request and response. So it's very specific, right? Fine grain. And with that, you have like a lot of benefits because you can even like do like some sort of unit testing or integration tests that are more specific to the endpoint's purpose. This I have extract for DevIQ, Steven Smith Ardales website. And then we have FastEndpoints. Uh, ESP.NET minimal APIs made easy. Well, yeah, I would say something like that, because with minimal APIs, you have performance and speed, really, and just an easy way of implementing APIs. But you have some sort of wiring to do that. And as you have more and more endpoints, you need to manage that in a way that's more like robust, rather than just clogging your program.cs. But when it says in here, it minimal APIs made easy, yeah, I would agree with that. And when you look in here like this, I extract from the website. So you have like this concept of request, the response, and the endpoint, where like the endpoint in here, if I can zoom in here, right? So you can see that we have the request, we have the response, and we have the endpoint. And they are simply, well, if you look in here, the endpoint connects the request with the response. You have a way of doing, well, determine what sort of HTTP verb that you want to assign. This is a post. You have a way of defining the sort of authentication or that's going to be available, authorization against like your endpoints. And you have in here like, well, you can observe that we're overriding some methods, right? Some sort of implementation or abstractions that you can leverage. And depending on what you use, you have some things are baked in, right? Especially if this handle async. It does like a lot of stuff, including validation, right? We're going to see that with fluent validation, it's baked in there. If you're leveraging the handle async, it's all in there. Like validation just happens out of the box. There's like other endpoints like execute async where you have more fine control on those things. But it's a simple implementation, really. It just works, right? I extract that like from fast-endpoints.com. I'm just checking like the response in here on the poll. Like you can see, it says 60% of the attendees are using minimal APIs, which is pretty good. 40% on MVC controllers. Yeah, well, working with legacy and uh, perhaps larger systems can be like a little bit difficult to change. And in general, like when you're putting some sort of concerns and benefits, sometimes the business doesn't see like the value of doing that, right, or transitioning. But as a technical that, yeah, you know that by leveraging one over the other, you have performance and everything like that I mentioned like before, like some sort of considerations. It's all about trade-offs in the end. All right. Let me just go one more slide and then we're gonna go to demos. Well, in here, like we have like a range of features. Yeah, 20, just like I grabbed that one from their website. But yeah, it's very comprehensive, right? It does more than just endpoints. It just enables you to be productive. That's what I would say about the library. Let me just, let's jump to the demo. All right, so we're going to start something simpler, but and then we're going to go gradually increasing the complexity of things. Okay, so just bear with me. If you're like more advanced or more like a senior dev, you're going to get to see the basic implementation, and you're going to go deep onto that. In the end, you're going to have access to the repositories, and I'm going to share with you a link for that. Uh, so yeah, let's like start like with like a new project. Okay, so if I am like to come like from like my the CLI. Okay, well, let me see. I don't think I have any projects in here. Cool. So let me just create like a new project, a new web dash name web app. Okay, I'm just gonna be creating that one, and as soon as that's done, I'm gonna add the package, add package, FastEndpoints. Okay. All right. So I need to come in here within that, and then let me add the endpoints in here. Let me zoom in a little bit more. I think that one should be a little bit better. Cool. So it's just adding that. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna open the studio code. All right. I'm not gonna use the agent. This is pretty like hands-on. And what you can see here is just like the out of the box. So create builder, we have the build, we're building like the service mapping endpoints. We don't need like all of that. We could just simply come here, build services, services dot add fast endpoints. Okay. Then after that, so we have added the fast endpoints onto like the middleware. Now we just need to use, we're not going to use any endpoints in here. We're going to use the fast endpoints. Okay. And from here, we're basically kind of done. One of the things that I know that's going to be fast endpoints. Okay. In here, I could have just compiled that one. Let me just run it on that build. And let's see. Could open like the comment to the code, but yeah, I'm gonna keep like them. Sometimes feels that I need to zoom in a lot just to show like the same sort of stuff. This is the only demo really I'm gonna go like creating from scratch. The other demos we're gonna go onto examples, right? So you're coming here for a first time. So let's see. So if you right, if I was to run, I'm not gonna get anything because we don't have any endpoints. So what I'm gonna do is just to include an endpoint, right? So first, let's do like models. For the models, first one is going to be called like my request.cs, right? So that one I'm gonna copy like just something already available. Like on my request, I have first name, last name, and age. That's it. All. And I'm gonna have a response. So let's put like in here my response.cs. Feel free to raise like any questions, and I'll do my best to look in the boards and for yeah. Even if you are implementing something like currently in your with clients, perhaps like I can help and clarify things. So what we have in here in the response, I have a full name, right? And saying yeah, that's okay. Over 18, a boolean, and combining. Kind of, I'm going to combine first name with the second, with last name. So we have the models. I'm going to create the endpoints. Oops, but the endpoints I'm going to create here at this level. So you would just be kind of my endpoint. Just wiring like the solution, really. Public class, my endpoint. And then we have the base class called endpoints. Oh, okay. So Copilot suggesting some things, but as you can see here, like I have my request and a my response. I'm gonna go with that. Sometimes like that one tricks me, like Copilot misses stuff, but oh, I'm in control. Right? Copilot is just a Copilot. What's missing here? It's the configuration of my endpoint. So there is another override around the configure. Cool. So that one is missing. What I need to do it, I have my copy in here, is just to include that. So I'm including a post, HTTP verb for that, allowing anonymous, anyone can make a request. And on my handle in here, I'm combining first name, last name. It's just the response that's not correct. So it's send dot okay async, right? So with that's the endpoint, and that's done really. So if I am to run this now, .NET run, I should be able to launch a request against that. So let's just see that has succeeded. I should get an endpoint, which is 5218. Let me see, I had it, my Thunder client. Go, let me put it here, 52. 18, right? Let me just double check, 5218. Come back. Cool. My body in here is simply, well, first name, second name, and age. So I should have that as I run. 200, okay? And, well, John Smith, first name, and a Boolean validating that, yeah, it's over 18 because it's 20 years old. So that's like my, well, boilerplate sort of out of the box implementation with FastEndpoints. Now we're gonna get a little more advanced, right? Uh, Let me just check on that. One of the things, right? That's the same sample I had before with the my endpoint, but you're gonna notice that what I have in here is, why is that? Uh, there's an explanation, right? Because when I was creating the sample, I decided that I wanted to use, oops, this guy here, fasten endpoint samples. Somehow, like the base implementation, there is a set of keywords that are excluded from loading the assemblies automatically. And FastEndpoints is one of them. So what I need to do, I need to do like some wiring. That's it. Like it works. But what I'm saying that take the assembly that I currently have in the solution and load it. I feel silly, but to be honest, as soon as you get that stuff, like you're just starting, that can be frustrating. So hope I avoid you like some pain. And oh, avoid naming your samples with fast endpoints. Call it something different, as I did. Like I call like web app before, right? So, anyways, just a detail that can get you stuck. Uh, let's jump like to, well, it's another branch I have created with typed results. I, if you don't know like what typed results are, is basically a way for you to define like a sort of response that you want. To be more specific, so in here I have created, uh, well, create user and get user endpoints. Something new, because before it was just my response, my request, and my endpoint actually. Well, continuing here, I call like user request, user response. The user request, it's similar, like first name, last name, age, with the response, well, exactly the same as before, like full name is over 18. But what I have in here. Well, not on this one, I guess, because it's pretty much the same. Is in here, right? So it changes. So what you can see here on top, right? So we have this, uh, let's say, endpoints without requests. So I'm getting a user. I'm not providing any sort of requests on the body. Think about the body of like the request. I'm not saying anything. What I'm sending here is a user ID that's part of the root. Right? So, but the body of the request is empty. And what I have is, yeah, wow, this one. Oops, let me change that. A results, typed results that where I get an okay of a user response, not found, or problem details. Right. So it's kind of a mix of stuff, but yeah, I'm defined that's a typed result. And that's something that comes with fast endpoints, right? Because well, I can say that yeah, I'm not leveraging body on my requests, but I want that some results are applied or can have like better control of what I want to return to my to the clients that have requested, right? Made the request to this endpoint. Another thing you're gonna notice in here is that I'm leveraging the execute async. Right, so I changed from the handle async, and I'm specifying here like I'm being more granular. When I say that, in specific with validations, right? So you're gonna notice that I have this guy here at error. So I'm returning a problem details where it says that the user identifier has to be greater than 0. I am controlling that, right? So I am kind of stamping an error, and that's going to be returned with my validation failures here. But what basically does is that from the root, it takes like the user ID, depending on what I have passed. If I pass 0, it's a not found. If -1 is a return this problem details, or okay, right? For if I pass anything else, 1 and beyond. What I can do is just to run that. I have my requests in here. And well, what you're gonna see is that I can simply request something from, well, 0 is going to be a user not found. Let me just see if this has started. Still like kind of bringing that. And as soon as that like launches, then yeah, I'm gonna just raise the request. You're gonna see, I think this one, oh yeah, it should be, let me see if it, oh yeah, it's loading, fine. When it passes, I want to pull a breakpoint onto the get user. Let me see, I didn't do that. Yeah, I want to do it. Cool. So that one is in. Let me come in here, and I'm gonna send this request with a user request of ID 0. Let me send that. So it has hit these endpoints. You guys can see that, well, if I just pass that, the user ID is going to be 0. If it's 0 is not found, right? And that's what I'm gonna get in here, not found. Uh, oops. What you can see is that, well, if you want to ensure consistency with your responses, I'm going to show like another example, like with problem details, that everything has like a body. So you're not simply handling verbs, right? So you have like a body that you have control, you can see the details in there. In general, with APIs, well, that's our focus in here. You want like consistency. Let me send like another uh, one in here. Let me, I think I save. Let me send that one. So with one, it's going to be a problem. Oh, it's going to be a type okay. It, yeah, it came back in here, right? If I send a -1, it's not gonna work by default in there. Like maybe there's like uh, a trick in here because if I try passing -1, it just fails. Uh, Maybe there is a tip that you guys know. Just let me know in the comments. But I'm gonna send this one. It's gonna be -1. It's gonna go to the problem details in here. So if I have this breakpoint, gonna hit things in here, and I'm gonna get the problem details in here, which is pretty good. Kind of shows exactly what I had in mind, right? And what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna revert to that. I don't want to save. That's kind of like the typed results, right? It's one of those features that comes with um, FastEndpoints. Let's go to the third example. Swagger. Wow. Bring the change. Anyways, continue. So with Swagger, yeah, we're dealing with API endpoints. Yeah, we want to visualize that into an API definition. So we have Swagger baked in out of the box. What I need to do is that, well, you can see here, I need to include another package, right? So I have included fastendpoints.swagger, and I have that available for me. And as soon as I do that, what we're going to see, oh, it's pretty much, I'm not going to do that. The create is simple, but yeah, it's the same implementation. But now what has changed is this. I included Swagger documents and using a Swagger generator UI, right? So if I play this one, that should launch our Swagger definition. Let me see when that launches. Cool. I should see that in a browser. All right, launch it in here. It needs to be Swagger /Swagger index, blah, blah, blah. And I have my endpoints in here, right? So then from here, one of the things that you notice without a box, you have this guy, right? So you have authorize, even though like my endpoints are to allow anonymous use, you have some things in there baked in, and you can customize, right? Even the header, title, yeah, uh, like groupings of how you're gonna label your APIs. Yeah, you can do all of that. I put like in here, make a request, and that should, well, hit the endpoint, right? So in this one, where is that? It's a 404. Yeah, zero is not found. So I got like the same sort of behavior. So now I have included Swagger. What I'm gonna further do? I'm going to put Swagger on wheels. We're going to we're getting here like to real world, right? So that's kind of where we're getting with commercial applications, sort of, right? So there, but you're gonna see that things are getting to be properly documented or with more details, and things are going to increase, right? The first thing you can see here is that, well, now I'm saying that my endpoint produces a user response, can also produce problem details, uh, RFC. I forgot the number of the the definition, but following like the problem details specification, producing a problem details for fast end that contains a problem details for 404 are not found. 500. I can also tag override. Before, if you notice, there was like API, right? So now I'm kind of overriding the labels, right, with users. And same here. There's a little bit more. I included like user not found. Before I had it not found directly specified, right? What I did was to include a problem details that returns a 404 and with a specific message. That's the only change in here. But another thing is that with fasten points, you can create like those sort of summary that shows like examples, right? So when you come like to the Swagger, you're gonna see that well, your endpoint has like a pretty description for that definition, right? Get user by ID. when I have the get user summary, because this one is targeting the get user endpoint. Right? So you can create, so like depending on the number of endpoints or the more examples, I say, right? This one is only 200. You could put examples for all the responses, right? 404, 500, 400. Yeah, it's just like that, depending on your requirements, uh, what you need to deliver. But you have a description, an example of a successful result, and that's it. So you can further increment or expand on your API definition. For the program, I don't think like I did anything different. I did, yeah. Okay, bear with me. There are like a lot of changes in here, but what I'm doing under the Swagger documents, I'm modifying, right, the header over there. So remember like the button. Well, I don't want the JWT bearer off because I'm allowing anonymous access, right? If you really want like to, well, all the professional and commercial applications are going to be wired up against identity provider, right? And yeah, you're going to be leveraging JWT. This stuff here can be, it's very comprehensive. Like FastEndpoints have like very comprehensive uh, uh, coverage on that. I'm not approaching here. That's like it's an identity sort of session, right? So only to understand like what it's doing, but it has like full coverage for that, for like the ASP.NET implementation, for any sort of identity providers, Office Zero, Microsoft Entra. Yeah, it's very robust, but I'm not focusing on that. I'm focusing like on APIs or the features within fast endpoints that are not identity based. But anyways, so change the title, adding version. If you work with versioning, you can like well staple here like your version numbers, and that's going to be reflected to your API definition. I'm enforcing the usage of problem details. Another thing I'm doing here is that for the 500, I create uh, an override. Let's say it's a special middleware to handle 500s with problem details. I couldn't find that on fast endpoints. So I'm just wrapping, right? So if there is any sort of exception, unexpected exception, 500, I'm wrapping that with the problem details specification. Well, let's just run that, and then you can see this on Swagger. All right, go pass and should launch my things in here. Let's see. Oh, I'm seeing a message from Tapelo. I was never a fan of minimal APIs. I just felt like I do uh, I do not have much control, but I like what I'm seeing with fast APIs, fast endpoints. Yeah, it's kind of minimal APIs on wheels, right? um, if you look like at the benchmark, right, where you compare performance, you could see, okay, kind of compares minimal APIs and controllers. The fast endpoints are very close to minimal APIs, right? Very similar. The range of the performance is just, yeah. When you look in there, like you see microseconds of difference, but it pretty much like robust and fast as like minimal APIs. It's a good wrapper, really, for minimal APIs. So in here, I launched things, and yeah, so there's been some changes, right? So the users, oops, user API with v1, that I have my tag in here that I'm overriding the tags. You could see, oh, now you have some sort of get user by ID, like kind of a friendly sort of display, even like the messaging. These endpoints retrieves their unique ID, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so you can increment or you can expand on that, right? One of the things you're going to see is that, well, the 200 just returns what's the focus, but from here, like bad requests, 404, we have like the problem details, 500. One thing you notice is that, yeah, it's showing 400, but actually when it runs, it gets to 500. Maybe there is something here that could be made to override and display 500, but this is just like a sample, right? So it's not like the final values. But if I am to do, I think it was -1, right? -1 is going to show I think that's not 404, it's going to be a 400. Let's see. Let's run. All right. -1, problem details, problem details. Yeah, it's going to be a 400. Go. And we got like a 400 coming here. Let's put like a 0. 0 would be a 404. Cool. That has run. Yeah, so it's coming here. So you can see 404 under like this wrap of like a problem details. So if you want consistency and you want to return that, yeah, so yeah, your clients they make like those requests could just say, yeah, leverage problem details for handling all responses that are not 200, right? So yeah, have consistency in here. Cool. Yeah. So well, you've seen like a little bit more, like from FastEndpoints to increments, have like Swagger on wheels. Let me close those things. And let's go like to example number 5. Swagger client download. Well, why it's bringing things? Because I changed here. Okay, sure. Let me put it again on Swagger client. That's a interesting one. Uh, if you leverage, well, if you're doing like front-end development or any sort of integration, you need to make requests to endpoints. It's always good practice to leverage client generators. Fast endpoints have support for that. What's interesting is that you need to include another package. This one is the Fast Endpoints client generator Kyoto. All right, so Kyoto is a client generator I would say initiative by Microsoft. So it's just because of those, well, there's been like before. Swagger it was part of Swashbuckle was part of the Bake Team, .NET, ESP.NET core implementations. Microsoft kind of decommissioned that, and now it became separate. Long story short is that client generators, Microsoft are focusing on and leveraging Kyoto. There are other client generators, like for example, NSwag, yeah, kind of a popular one. But Kyoto is coming now to with Microsoft investing time and budgets onto that. So you're gonna have pretty good support, different from what was before. So you needed to implement that, the Kyoto, and when you do, so let me see the program JS. What changes in here? Right. Let me see. Oh, I'm just looking at time. Yeah, we have plenty. We're on number 5. We have 5 more. Uh, what I have is that I'm mapping the client's endpoints in here. That's the only thing that changes because the rest remains the same. But you see that, well, only when it's development. It's for me for development environment uh, within my development environment. When I hit this endpoint, it kind of generates a C sharp, uh, well, downloadable package, and then I can use that to make requests. One of the things I notice, right, is that because when I'm switching uh, branches, I think things gets kind of dirty, right? Because imagine if the binaries, I'm gonna clean that up and see if that gets resolved because I was seeing those warnings. Let me see if I can build that when it does. Is that running? No. Oh, it's doing the cleaning still. Wow. Yeah, it's cleaning. But yeah, it's just because we're switching those branches, right? So I think like the build and the object folders are kind of dirty at this stage. I need just to clean them up. But what you're gonna see here is that I have put it onto this branch, the client as well. Because as soon as I launched and I could see on Swagger, I entered that, I clicked, and I had like this downloadable file, which was a zip. And then I had that. I have included basically a program CS that wasn't there at all, but I had my users client, right? So that's all kind of says in here, like auto generated, right? So I have like everything here has been generated. The only thing that I created was the program CS. And what else? Uh, no, all generated, all generated. I'm not lying. And no, it was only that. And I kind of wrapped up onto a project because before there wasn't a project at all. And without the project, I couldn't build, but I knew that there were like some packages. Let me just see here if that builds. I can show the package. Okay, oh, it's still clean that up. I think it's just stuck. Hey, let me go this. Ah, no, what the heck? Let me close this one. Uh, all right. Where is this? Just bear with me because I had like this one. Um, Let me copy the full path. And I had this before CD. All right, cool. Can I do that? I'm gonna force that one. And well, hopefully time allows. I'm gonna run this one. But I'd like to show the CS client. And yeah, I was keen to do like a. It just depends on like how quickly this one is sorted. But one of the things they're gonna see that the program wasn't there. I created, and I basically specified. Okay, I created like these endpoints. That's the URL gets created using this anonymous authentication provider. There's like an adapter, a concept with Kyoto. But as soon as I created this adapter, I can call it the client. The URLs are not kind of specified or hard coded. You need to kind of build them. That's what I did. And then with the user request, as soon as I do it, here like is a zero. Zero is not found. Right? So there would be an exception being raised with the problem details, and blah blah blah. So that would be like the check. Oh, it has built. How are we with time? 44. Oh, to be honest, I will leave it at. Well, I'm gonna only show the Swagger endpoint, so you see for yourself that in here I'm using C sharp. We can use TypeScript. There are other specifications in here. Oh, now it's building, but can I do it while it's building? No, it's not allowing me. Dart, Go. Oh, there are few. Hey, can you see it? C Sharp, Dart, Go, HTTP, Java, PHP, Python, Ruby, TypeScript. Yeah, so you have plenty of options in here. I'm really enjoying exploring Kyoto, and yeah, um, but yeah, let's see. Is it launch or not? Yeah, something to do with the project. I'm gonna cancel that. Okay, just trust me. You have like the sample. You can just run yourself and then check. But I was really keen for you to see that we have these endpoints. And what I'm doing here is I'm caching the output, saying that, yeah, cache for 1 year. Development purpose, it doesn't matter, and that was one of those examples available. Uh, Sinan, I have like another question here. How do you compare fast endpoints and mediator? Yeah, that's a great question. That comes with like an opinionated view of things because nothing stops you from combining. From that point, we will have the endpoints, right? Or where is the endpoint? Not here. In here, if you were right to leverage mediator, nothing would stop you from hooking things in here. But it's another. It just depends on your architecture, right? Um, the main intent with the fast endpoints is to simplify your API endpoints. Uh, but I agree that like there are different architectures, like a vertical slice, or if you're doing like clean architecture or baked in, combining those together, you're gonna follow like what suits best for you. But there are some overlaps on what fast endpoints provides with mediator, specifically with middleware. I have an example for that. Yeah, so there's some commonalities, let's say, right? So, but it's up to you to decide what suits you better. And well, I'm a big fan of mediator, right? But it feels that you could overcomplicate or over-engineer your solution by combining those two together. But it's up to you. You have your best in place to decide what's best for your solution, right? And checking the trade-offs. It's all about trade-offs. That's always what I say. But it's basically on depending on your requirements, right? So you don't want to overcomplicate things. Uh, that's not working. Cancel that. I did, right? I did. What I'm gonna do in here, I'm gonna change. Let me close that because I think it was something to do with the binaries. Let's go to validation, fluent validation. Uh, Very quickly, I'm gonna close the solution and reopen. Okay, and in here, what you're gonna see is that I have more models. What has changed with my project? Nothing. Fast endpoints have um, references like onto its own baseline to fluent validation, right? So you don't need to hook any other packages. When you're looking here at the, all right, let me see here. Uh, Requests. So I have like this user ID request. And you can see I have a validator, right? So that's coming from fastendpoint.validator. And I'm only validating the user ID that must be greater than 0. And it has a message, user ID must be greater than 0. I have like another user request that was the previous one, first name, last name, and age. And I'm just, well, I'm not allowing that things are submitted without like first name, right? Or minimum length of like 2 characters. Right? It shows like the message, first name's too short or last name's too short. Or you need to be greater than 18 years. Well, you must be 18 years old, over 18 years old to register, something like that. And nothing has changed in here. But let me see. I think that was on the create. Nope. In here, yeah, that was one of those things with the handle. In here, validation just happens, right? You're gonna see I don't have any sort of handling with the validation. It's just that's going to be displayed on send OK async automatically to the requester. While in here, I have a little bit more control, even with the handle async, right? So it's a interesting one because what I'm saying is that, look, don't throw if validation fails. That's going to fail automatically with that, handle async. But I'm saying don't throw it. And then I am controlling. like add an error, and then throw if any errors. So it's kind of, yeah, well, in theory, right? So the handle async is for like endpoints that you have like out of the box. Things need to work as is. You're not like too worried about the underlying implementation. Exec async is for that. That's when you have fine control, but you have ways of turning it off. That sort of validation with handle async. That's what it is in here. Let me just play that. I hope this one works now that solution has been reinitialized. Okay, fine. Yeah, it's building. And let's go to this example. Cool. This one I don't have Swagger. Hey, so nothing where we can see, but I have this, the request. I can show that, okay, I'm gonna create like age in here is 17, right? I have only one character for first name. So there are some problems in here, but I'm gonna send this anyways. Okay, so I got that your first name is too short. You must be 18 years old and over, right, to register that. I'm just creating. I don't have any validation here. Things just, it didn't even hit, right? So fluent validation checked like there first and before it got even here. And if I am to now, oh, send this for, let me put like a breakpoint. This one, it's nice to see it, right? And send a request. Cool. Wow. Fluent validation is there, but I had this. Don't throw if validation fails. But I am controlling, I'm adding, okay, if the user ID is less or equal than 0, user identifier has to be greater than 0. I am controlling that. Throw if any errors. And then, yeah, there's an error. Continue. Should have this one. Yeah, it took like some time. Let me play this one. F5. Go, go. Cool. So I have in here my response that I have created. Boom. And user identifier has to be greater than 0. So I had like those two validations in there because the first one, the user ID, was that one, right? So this one was validated, but it didn't throw any error. So like you have full control with fluent validations. Let's jump. Seeing like another question. Until can we mix fast endpoints and controllers in the same project? I would say no. The idea with the fast endpoints is for you to leverage with the REPR pattern, right? That's the idea because you want to simplify how your requests are created, right? So I wouldn't combine those. They need to be considered like separately, really. Think about that. Controllers like legacy or solutions that maybe like the development team uh, is very familiar with, right? Because I'm not saying the controllers are bad. No, they're not bad. It just depends. It depends on a lot of factors. The team familiarity as well is one of those. If your team is familiar with controllers, well, leverage that because you know how to do it. If you want to be like more succinct, more like specific, fast endpoints. You have other benefits of like performance and other features baked in for you, right? So, but good question. Thanks, Until. Let's go to number 7. Let me close all of this stuff in here. Close. I don't think that's running. Cool. Don't want to see any problems. Mapper. We have mapping capabilities. Well, if you're familiar with AutoMapper or any other mappers, there's something baked in on fast endpoints. And how that works is that I think, let me see if that's the one. Yeah, we have this. These are more advanced. And no, that's the only one, actually. But what it's interesting, right? I think we can start with that and then review how things are built in. But you starting here with the endpoints, right? So you can see that we have the user request. You can see that we have the user response, and you can see that we have the user mapper. User mapper. So I can hook a mapper that has a translation from my request to response using a model as well, right? Because when you're looking here, well, disappear. Cool. Uh, well, I have in here a request, user request. This request gets translated to a user, and then this user gets mapped to from an entity onto a response, and that's sent back to the requester, right? So I have multiple things in here, multiple mappers because it's on purpose just to show how it works. But if you look at the user object, user mapper, sorry. So I have the user model. I created that different from the user request, user response. Now I have like this user, which contains an ID, full name, and age. But I have the user mapper. That's here is the glue, really. So if I look at the mapper, right, that combines a user request, a user response with a user being like as the model. Uh, and then I have those mappings to entity, receiving the user request. I translate that into a model user and doing like some magic in here, like concatenating and all that stuff. And in here from entity, I take the model and translating onto a user response. But what is nice is that, oh, this one, I have everything here, like I just say, yeah, I use this mapper, and then I can do the conversions. Let's play that one. I'm conscious about the time, right? I know I'm on example number 7, and I have 3 more. This is going to be extending a little bit more, right? So if you want to see the really advanced stuff from here, that's it. You're gonna learn like what the I've been doing, others are doing like the markets. But there things in here up to that point where we've seen a lot of stuff in here that's commercial, it's applicable, right? Um, Let me just raise like this request for that was the get, right? When that shows, where is that? Ah, I was just blind, like I wasn't seeing like the send request. What the heck? Uh, I think I have breakpoints. Okay, I do. Not get is the create. Cool. That's why. Let me send that one user ID John Smith 18. Oh, it all matches up, right? So let's see. Let's send that one. Cool. So I have the request. The request is coming as is from the my request in there. I'm diving, translating to okay, combining to the user. Then I have my user, which has now my full name. Then I'm converting that to my response. So you could have some logic, right? Depending on what you have, that you could make embedding here. So I have my response, and that's the response that's going to be returned. What the heck? Operations. I think I don't know if I took like that long. Let me. But anyways, that would be my response here. Yeah, it was canceled. And that's a way of for you to do like the mapping, right? So that was number 7. Let's go to number 8, processors. Now we're getting onto what Tina mentioned. Uh, well, it's not like a comparison, but like overlaps, right? Um, with the processors, right? So it's an interesting thing. And what you can see is that, well, just to give like some sort of coverage in here, all right? So just bear with me. But with processors, let's grab something like that. I'm gonna copy that and put it in here. All right. Yeah, it's interesting how things work with processors. Let me put like some labels in here. We have like this concept of preprocessor, right? And the preprocessor make those requests to your endpoint. Well, they are executed before your endpoint, and you have ways of handling after the execution of your endpoint. You're going to use for multiple things. For logging, you could use for validation, right? Similar to how you could, well, similar to what mediator would do it. There are still some limitations in here, but yeah, you could, right? So, and you have like the option of having states, right? So basically you have this sort of flow happening in here, and you can leverage states. And what is that? So it's a way for you to do, well, you basically have states as a singleton. So you should really be persisting anything here, right? So that's not like for persistence. It's just like a way for you to transmit something, like to staple something here that's going to be valid for other parts of the process, right? So yeah, you could maybe like having some sort of logs that or I don't know, some sort of status that you want to share for all of your requests in here to use. But you have that. That's kind of the concept with the preprocessor. And you're gonna see that it looks a little bit more complex because it can be, right? But let's see like the processors in here coming from this one. This is a global preprocessor, right? When I say global, is that this one is going to be executed before any preprocessors. So I have this concept of a global execution. So if you have multiple preprocessors, this one is going to be executed in the first place. I put like this one as an example because I global tenant ID checker. So if I jump in here, you're gonna see that yeah, if I have a header that contains this sort of X tenant ID, if if it doesn't have, then I'm including like some errors to be returned to the requester. So I can have some sort of controls in there. What I have on the code, right? Let's see. I think I put it in here, right? Nothing changed in here, but what I have under my endpoints. So I have like a preprocessor for age checker and a duration logger, right? So preprocessor, and this one is a post processor. So what they're gonna do it, and in here you can see that I have processor state. So with that state, I basically counting like the number like of milliseconds, but I also capturing is valid age. Right, so I have like some states in here that I'm transitioning between those requests. And let's see like what the preprocessor age checker does. I can see that with the preprocessor is accepting a state, right? It has the user request, and even how I, oops, created that one. So you can see that's a preprocessor that receives user requests and leverages the state. But I'm just saying that if the context request contains like age and it's greater than 18, that's a valid state. So it's just true. And I have also the my state bag. You can see duration in milliseconds. There is a stopwatcher in here. So just to demonstrate that while I'm debugging, the timer is going to increment. So if I am to execute that one, let me see. I guess I have other things in here, but let me run that. That's like a advanced scenario. Okay, execute. It should be running. This one Do I have? I didn't put like swag. I did put swagger. Oh, that's a lifesaver. Cool. Right. Before like I see it, this one is happening with the create user. Well, do I have like the breakpoints in here? Age checker, I do. Do I have the breakpoints for duration logger? Yes, I do. Cool. So let's create that. Post, let me put like in here, Marcel. I'm here like on my, let's put like 30s. Let's execute that. I'm going to skip this one, the first global one, but you can see that one has been triggered X tenants ID. It's going to fail because I didn't provide that, right? So I want to skip that. I want to raise the other ones. Cool, the request contains, so it's going to be valid. So that's my state. State is valid. Okay, that's there. It's valid. Yeah, it's going to print the status. That's it. Then it's going to go to my endpoint. My endpoint is going to retrieve the state. I have the duration here, so it's incrementing, which is fine. But you're going to see here are the states, right? So the states is valid age. Yes, it is. That's it. And then in the end, that's my post processor. I'm just logging. So it has incremented like 35 seconds or so, right? So it's going to print that. That should be on my, yeah, it's all being printed in here, right? So it's just that it's not visible, but anyways, you can see some things being executed, blah, blah, blah. It's going to be printing things in here. But yeah, what's important is that, well, this one's going to be at 200, blah, blah, blah. But you could see those stages, right? So that's like pretty cool. Let me see if I had like the other ones. I had like other examples. Um, I just want to see if they are similar. Yeah, there are other more complex ones where I can have leverage like kind of generics, using interfaces like for empty requests. It's very similar. So that was like the response logger. I think that's the post processor. So I can implement like interface for that, and they have a particular result. If it matches up, you're basically covering multiple endpoints, right? So depending on how you put like with your abstraction, you could have like a pre-processor, a post-processor that can be reused for multiple endpoints. It doesn't need to be one preprocessor for one endpoint. So you could reuse that. All right. So it does like similar stuff with problem details. I'll leave like that for you guys to check. Let's go to number 9, event bus. That's a cool one as well. Similar, well, kind of overlap from a mediator. So mediator, you have the events like all the publisher, right? And subscriber kind of pub sub behavior. We have something similar as well in here, which is interesting because, well, if you're looking at replacing mediator with that, well, you could. All right, so there are like different ways of doing that, and the library itself has uh, coverage for this and many other scenarios. This is like a pub sub. There is also like the command, right? It's another example. The difference with the event bus in here is that is a pub sub. So you could have like one publisher with multiple subscribers, right? That's like a perfect scenario in here for like uh, showcase my drawing skills, right? So because in here, like you could have like the scenario of like pub sub that, yeah, you basically have multiple and you could put like all of that. You have like your pub sub in here. So pub sub, let's put like in here sub, go sub one, you could have like sub two and etc. Right. So that's going to trigger those. Right. Trigger this, trigger this, trigger this, as many subscribers that you have. So this one, you have like sub three. And you have commands as well. So with commands, that's the next one. That's the last one. With the commands, is one-to-one. Okay. I think if I pick this one, I'm gonna copy that. The command like is one-to-one because it's a very specific implementation that only the handler itself is going to be able to do that. So you cannot do the same as pub and sub, but you have the command and you have the handler here. Oops. Oh no, this one. You have the handler. All right. That's like yeah, it's an interesting case here. With the commands, there's even interesting things that you can do in here. I'm gonna show that. So I'm just going to explain as we are on the boards right now. But if I am, oops, if I'm to copy that, we can have the chain of responsibility. Right. So the chain of responsibility is a pattern that where we can simply um, combine actions, right, to be executed in a kind of on a sequence, right? But the way how it works in here is that everything comes from the endpoint until it gets to your um, let's say the command, right? So, oops. Let's say I'm gonna rename this one. Let's say like that's the trigger, and this is your command because the command that's the handler really. Our trigger here is the endpoint, and we could have like something like this, could have like something like that. So you could combine actions. Yeah, that's like an advanced kind of a middleware, really, similar to how mediator handles, kind of, but you have like this ability, right? So just checking here on time. I explained like the concept, right? The pub sub. You can like run this yourself. This is like it's really simple. Nothing here. I don't have any other implementation, but I have those events, right? The events I creating here is that first name, last name, age, and a date created. Just like stamping a date. And then I have a handler for that. And the event handler is simply, okay, it's implementation of an event handler that takes user created event. So it's kind of going to be listening to that. And as soon as that is triggered by what? By our endpoint here, okay? The publish async. And then I can do like, well, that's the one in here. Publish async. There's like an interesting implementation here, like wait for all. So if you have like multiple subscribers, you could like just wait for all of them to be concluded and then proceed to the next execution here, right? So if you don't care really, that comes like this concept of producer, consumer, but you could wait or not. So you have like other implementations here, like mode dot wait for any, wait for none. I'm gonna wait like for all. Let me just trigger this one. This on create user. That should be there should be like a Swagger endpoint for that. It does. Cool. We're 14 minutes beyond. This is going to take a few more minutes, okay? But like when you need to reference examples of real use case, you have here recorded, right? So I think that's it's going to be beneficial for everyone, even like for me later on when I come back to that. Uh, let's see. Okay, let's put like in a name here, John Smith. Let's put like 30 and trigger that. Right. So I have my publish. Well, I have only one handler. So it's going to trigger only once. So that was triggered. Okay. So there was a publishing. Now this one, oh, that was the creates, right? If I put things in here, coming back to the handler, you're going to see that this is going to be, oh, this is going to be printed and then comes down here, right? So that's my pub sub behavior, right? So I got like 200. Let me stop that. And we have the command. And with the command bus, That's exactly what I explained before. Uh, Here I have two examples, the command itself and the advanced middleware implementation, right? Uh, let's see the create. So, well, a little bit different than the previous before, where like was a publish of an event. Here it's a command that I called get full name. And what just receive first name, last name, and I need to execute that one. So if I drill down in here, you're gonna see that, well, I have this interface, I commands that returns expects a result of a string, but I have also like the handler that receives, oops, can I put it here? I get full name, which is this one, that has these results because this result is this, and this is the same as here, right? Sure. So I have the handler, uh, the commands itself, and the handler in the same one. But I have like the middleware. I think the middleware. All right, yeah, it's commented out, right? So let's just play this one. You're gonna see just the regular command without the middleware. Cool, that's going to be launched. Okay, cool. Swagger. Let's do the get full name. I always forget is the get. No, not the get, the create. Cool. Well, if I know what, like which window that one was. Yeah, cool. Great. Let's put in here the same. And let's put it. So yeah, so it's going to go, let's dive in here, F11. Yes, I had the breakpoint, cool. Yeah, but it triggered, right? So I have my first name, last name is going to combine, return like a string. And that's going to have in here like my full name, and that's it. It has executed like my command. I had the command and a handler for that. What I'm gonna do now is the middleware. So with the middleware, right, you can see that's a pipeline. That's a sequential, really. That's the chain responsibility. First, going to execute the command logger and then the result logger. So as you remember, we have the endpoint is going to be triggered. Then we're going to have the command logger, result logger, the command handler, and then things coming back to as a part of the response. All right, so let's trigger that one. Do I have that? I have the, yeah. Let's just look like the command logger. What the command logger is, as you can see, that's the typical implementation of middleware. Put like a log, that's the main action, okay? That's the main action, that's my pipeline, and I'm just wrapping that with logging. I have like another one called result logger that does exactly the same. But I'm just concatenating, right? Let's say I'm chaining the commands. Let's execute that one. Cool. So that launched. Let's do the creation with Swagger. Great. Right. So let's pull like another one. Let's go in here and let's put like an age. Go. All right. So it got to my endpoints. Now it's gonna go to my command logger, right? Then it's going to execute the next. It went to my result logger. It's gonna go now to my command handler. It's going to combine the names. It's going to come back, right, to my result logger, and that's the sequence. The sequence. Command logger. Well, it came back to my endpoint, and now I have my the details, right? So That's my 10 examples with fast endpoints. And I have that ready and available in my repository. Let me just share the repository name. I always forget that. Okay. If you can just please, like, just give a star. I always like, but I have this one, .NET Fast Endpoint samples. And all the branches are here. You're gonna see that. I'm gonna put it on the, oh, I just put like on the chat, right? So you can check this one later. The thing is that, well, you guys up to this time, I guess it's about also, I would like to raffle off like some JetBrain licenses, right? What I would say is that this one is going to be based on requests, right? So if you can come and put it like I'm gonna put like on the chat, right? So that's the meetup. Just jump to the meetup and say like, please, I would like a license. I have three of them, and you can use for any JetBrains products, right? Just ping like on the on this the meetup session. Put like your name. Hi Marcel, I'd like this, and then I'll chat to you like in a private chat and share with you. If there are like more than three people keen, I'm just gonna give like the first three to the first that submit the messages, right? I think like with this, like we had like a pretty good, I would say comprehensive. I would say like 60% of what is available on Fast Endpoints is there, right? But there's many more, right? So if you check the website, let me just bring that one. If I can just come and check the documentation. There are many more. I kind of glanced into lots of things. What I didn't cover, integration unit testing. I think that one's yeah, it's good to understand how it works and explore. Uh, with this one, like there are some like templates or some packages available that contains already some sort of wrapped up examples with like fixtures and all of that. Yeah, I recommend like leveraging this, right? And exploring. I wish like I had more time, really. Like, but man, that would be like a 2 hour session, and we have gone like beyond that, right? So, I thank you for staying like with me up to that time. It's late, and yeah, with that, like thank you, and yeah, just keep in touch, and we should have like more sessions coming. What's coming next? We should have like another session coming with Sinam. I need to publish, but we're going to have the. Let me come bring it here. Just if you are in Auckland, right? We're going to have the VS Code Dev Days, and that's an in-person session. And we're going to have Jerome is there, I am there, and Sinam is there. So it's going to be a mix of workshops with Prezos. It's more like workshops. The intent is for us as developers to come together and well, and discuss about Visual Studio Code and Copilots. There are limited seats up to 35. We're almost getting there. There are four more seats available. If you don't know, like, but yeah, I would recommend if you are in Auckland, this is an in-person event. Feel free to join and then come and share and chat. I'll be very happy to have like any discussions and chats about like what you've seen today on Fast Points and even what's happening in the markets. Yeah. With that, I appreciate you staying with me. And yeah, thanks so much. And I hope we'll catch you again next month when we have more sessions. Cool. Thank you. See you later. Bye.